Hi, I'm Linda. My husband Jeff and I have 8 children. They're all adults now, but when they were small and all living at home, one of the best practices that became part of our family life was reading aloud with our children. We were helped along with this by the fact that when we first moved here in the early 1970s, there was no electricity. Hydro-Quebec had not yet brought their power line down this road. And so we lived a number of years without electric power. So that meant no TV, no internet. And especially in the wintertime, in the long, dark evenings, we read aloud to our children. And later on, the children read aloud to each other. And we read nursery rhymes, poetry, stories, books. And I'm convinced from this experience that the good things that we plant in our children's lives, what we put into their hearts and their minds, have lasting effects. They remain with them into adulthood, and they bring joy and happiness long after childhood ends. So one of our favorite series for very young readers were the adventures of a couple of characters called Frog and Toad. This was a 4-book series. Frog and Toad are friends, Frog and Toad together, Frog and Toad all year, Days with Frog and Toad. They're written by Arnold Obel. He's deceased now, but they have stood the test of time. They were written over 50 years ago, and they're still bestsellers on Amazon. And they're very lovely stories. They're the stories of the simple things that friends do together, how friends resolve difficulties. They're just very gentle stories with a great deal of kindness in them. Last fall, one of our adult daughters discovered a pattern on the internet for knitting a stuffed version of Frog and Toad. She sent me a message, "Mom, will you knit these for me?" I thought it seemed like a good project going into the winter, so I bought the pattern and I bought the yarn. The pattern turned out to be 18 pages, and there were a lot of stitches and techniques that were beyond my knitting skills. I've knit a lot of socks and a lot of mittens, but I was completely unfamiliar with webbed feet and fingers, kneecaps, and particularly the most difficult part was the protruding eyeballs that these amphibians had. But my son has often told me, "Mom, anything you want to learn, you can find on the internet." So I went to the internet and I discovered a whole world of knitting. And I am so grateful to the generous knitters who have taken the time to put up videos describing every possible stitch, every possible problem, and the solution to those problems. It was just a wonderful experience, and I really learned a great deal and upped my game on my knitting skills. And in the end, I had to start over a few times, but in the end, I was really able to produce Frog. And this is his signature outfit. This is what he's pictured in most of the watercolor illustrations in the books. These rather unattractive pants and his little jacket. And this is Toad. And this is Toad's bathing suit. And one of the stories in the book is all about Toad's reluctance to let anyone see him in his bathing suit because he thinks it makes him look silly. And yes, it does make him look silly. So this was the end result of my knitting project. One other really blessing that came out of this was that right at the beginning, I wasn't able to find the yarn that was recommended in Canada. And so I had an email address for the young woman who created this pattern, and I entered into a short email exchange with her. And she shared with me her love for these stories, and that's what had prompted her to create this rather complicated pattern and recreate these beloved characters from her childhood. And that just reinforced what I said at the beginning, that these things that our children experience when they're young really stay with them and bring them joy and happiness right into their adult life.